Good morning. We are here at the World Bank at the GEF Council meeting, and we are here at GEF Live. My name is Jaime Cavalier. I work at the Global Environment Facilities Secretariat, and we have here with us Stephen Broad, the Executive Director of Traffic. So, Stephen, thank you so much for coming to the GEF Council, and just really looking forward to this interview and our rest of the day.
Great, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, Stephen. Please, you want to sort of start by telling us what traffic is and what is that you do and what is the forte of traffic in the scope of the issues that we're going to be discussing today.
Yeah. So Traffic is a NGO, a non-governmental organization that's focused only on wildlife trade. We're a specialist organization working on trade in wild animals and plants from a conservation standpoint. And we're a global organization. Our headquarters is in Cambridge in the UK, and we have offices in Africa, Europe, Asia, around the world, and here in the US. And we work along a research-based approach, what we call an evidence-to-influence approach, to get knowledge about wildlife trade and bring that to policymakers, practitioners, and then support action on wildlife trade. We're not an advocacy campaigning organization. We're very much an evidence-based organization supporting action in this field.
Okay. What are the two main ways in which traffic works? You know, kind of the ways in which you actually tackle the issues that you are kind of dealing with?
Yeah, our strategy is a sort of balanced approach to wildlife trade. We call them the red stream and the green stream. Okay. So the red stream is dealing with the issues that we hear a lot about, sadly nowadays, of illegal wildlife trade, of organized crime getting involved in the ivory trade, problems of for example, ivory trade, rhino horn trade, a range of other problems, and trying to address those problems. And the other side is what we call the green stream, which is looking at options for sustainable legal trade in wildlife that brings benefits to people and communities and therefore drives conservation benefit.
Okay. In the sort of scene of illegal wildlife trade, people are by now very much aware of the issues of trafficking of ivory and rhino horns and now pangolin and pangolin scales. Can you elaborate on the other species that are probably less known to people but are perhaps equally important or even more important than them?
Yeah, absolutely. The species you mentioned are really have major problems in illegal wildlife trade, but actually there are thousands of other species involved. And actually some of the highest value illegal wildlife trade is actually timber species, including very high value rosewood species, a range of fisheries trade from illegal sources, and then a whole range of other species for which even very low levels of trade, even someone taking 10 or 15 or 100 individuals can have a massive impact on their conservation. Birds, reptiles, stag beetles, a whole range of species which are subject to sort of legal protection, but for which there's a demand which is driving trade, which is illegal in that case.
Right. I mean, many of the issues, environmental issues and social issues that we currently face are a combination of an increasing population size as well as the increasing in consumption per capita. Perhaps you can elaborate on the issue of consumption per capita, the use and overuse of natural resources and how that relates to what traffic does.
Yeah, absolutely. Illegal wildlife trade is just part of a bigger picture of overexploitation. We know from recent IPBES assessment that overexploitation is the second biggest driver of biodiversity loss, species loss, and impact on ecosystems. And this major problem is ultimately driven by demand and desire for natural resources, and either by people who want to make a living from the resources around them, or people who just want to acquire things, either to consume or to keep or to use for display, a whole range of species. So this demand issue is the major driver of overexploitation that we're trying to address.
Right. Perhaps we can sort of talk briefly about the intersection between legal and illegal trade, how one affects the other.
Yeah.
Many people say if we legalize the trade, then many, if not all, the problems will be solved. Would you say that's the case, or how do the two interface at the moment, at least?
Yeah, there are some species for which the population levels are really so vulnerable that those sort of options are not really on the table. And also, there are some areas of wildlife trade where the market is so overheated that, again, ideas of coming up with some rational trade-based solution are really quite unrealistic again. But there are a lot of other areas of trade where there is this balance between then there are legal sources. So if you look at what's happening in the wild plant trade, or fisheries trade, or timber trade, for example, there are options for sustainable trade which undermine illegal trade activities, also help get the criminals out of the business, which is the problem at the moment. Through traceability of legal trade systems, responsible sourcing, but also helping consumers understand what is something legal and sustainable to buy, rather than something which is illegal or unsustainable.
Right, and I think for the audience listening to this interview, and for the youth of the world that are now driving most of the political agenda, what do you think they could do to participate, to assist the traffic mission, because this is a global issue, and as you said at the end, is in the hands of everybody in the end.
Yeah. So firstly, just supporting efforts in this trade. I mean, asking companies what they're doing, asking airlines, are they stopping illegal trade going through their businesses, asking internet companies, are they doing something, asking banks, are they doing something. So putting some pressure on is one thing, but also taking account that actually we're all wildlife consumers at some way or another. It could be we're using wild plants in some teas, or someone's using wild plants that are used in a lipstick, or people are buying fish which is wild sourced, or timber which comes from wild natural forests. So thinking about what's in your cupboard, what's in your own house and your own lifestyle, are you asking the right questions? Are you asking, is this legal? Is it from sustainable sources? And actually just inquiring about this business, and then making good choices.
Okay, great. Okay, that's to end this conversation. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you.